Mike Craven from Dave Campbell's Texas Football here with Baylor head coach Dave Aranda. Coach, Big 12 Media Day is kind of the unofficial start of the football season. What was your favorite part of the offseason? You go on vacation, you have some fun. Kind of what were you up to the last, I guess, 6 months?
Let's see. We went on vacation, but probably the best just happened. So my oldest girl, Jalen, she goes to Wisconsin, and so she is back in Wisconsin right now, and she went to a Dodgers Brewers game, and they went with all the her friends, which are all Brewers fans, and she sent me a picture of her with her friends, and she's wearing like Dodger blue. And so I was so proud of my girl, because like we're such big Dodger fans. Now they've lost, I think, 4 in a row. They lost to the Astros, and then they lost to the Brewers on yesterday, I guess it was. And so, but that was pretty cool. That was, my grandmother would be so proud of me. That'd be the one thing I've done right. was getting some more Dodger fans around.
There you go. For you guys, for the offseason for Baylor, how do you go about managing the portal, managing recruiting, and kind of putting together rosters these days in kind of a new era with Revshare? Just, I feel like every single year there's kind of a new curveball thrown at y'all in terms of what you can do.
Yeah, you don't want to go over budget, and so I think, it's really, there's, just throughout Texas, right? Just if you're to drive from one spot to the next, like you do when you do your tour, there's speed traps, right? There's going to be, 75, and then it's going to go to like 45 or something like that, and that's basically what has happened with Revshare, is that's happened, and so I think you have to build. With that being the case, there's the school side of it, and then there's the recruit side of it. The school side of it is, hey, we've got to account and be under this budget, and we have to make this work. And some of those decisions are going to be hard decisions based upon, hey, we're paying this boy this much, but his production has not been what the pay scale now needs to be based upon this overall number. And so you're dealing with all that on your side of it. And then on the player side, it's got to be, it's probably bad timing for them, because they were coming into it where it was like, hey, in the previous era, it was, hey, this dollar number or this figure, and now under Revshare, it's a much more subdued number. And so there's, for that reality to hit, sometimes that's hard to hit. It doesn't always hit immediately.
How do you, culture is such a big part of football. How do you go about establishing that in the locker room these days compared to maybe 5-10 years ago?
I think you got to try to be open about those things. I think, I think you have to. We talked about with the team multiple things, but one of them was like, hey, why would someone think they should get paid more than what they should? And we had our guys get into groups and kind of bring up kind of discussion points and what they thought, and then we talked it out for like half hour after that. And so I think things like that can help kind of flush that stuff out and get it out into the open, and to where, there's just if you don't, I think there's too many silos, and there's just too much that can divide you. You have to really be intentional about being connected.
Last year, you kind of had a Jekyll and a Hyde, right? Like the first part of the season, not so great. Then y'all go on that big run. What changed? What was the biggest difference between the 2-4 start and the 6-0 finish?
I thought we were a talented team in the beginning. We would get right to games that we could win, and we'd lose them. I thought that Air Force game was a tough game. We won that one. I thought that the BYU game, we didn't start good, but we finished strong, almost won that one. Colorado game obviously was just a great game by them, and just a horrible ending by us. And then the Iowa State game was probably our worst game of the year. But you look at that, and you look at, man, we were right in these games, and I think the team knew they were a good team. And so the difference, though, I think, was the run game was really activated going in to the game after the bye, the Tech game. And I thought our ability to run the ball kind of calmed the waters and gave Sawyer, hey, it's 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 10, and it just kind of changed everything.
In my industry, like when I first got into it, stick with me here. This is kind of a long question, but when I first got into it, I was just a writer. I didn't have to do video. I didn't have to do podcasts, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like being an assistant coach, right? You like just do your position, then you become a coordinator and you're just doing the defense. Like now being back play calling on defense, is there like a comfort zone to that of like, this is what I've done my whole life. I get to just bury myself in the defense. Like, what do you like about that part of it?
I mean, not really. There's a lot of difference, when I think the things, whether it was 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, particularly those years, the offenses in college football were one way, and I think the things that we were doing in those times were probably really effective in defending or attacking where offenses were. Since that time, and we're talking about 18, 19, even when I was still calling it, you could kind of sense it. But now coming back after however many years last year, it's to the point to where the things that we would call in 2015 and 2016 would never call. Now, you couldn't call it. It flipped the other way, where offensively, everything they're doing now is versus the stuff that we used to do. And so you have to kind of make a whole last year, no one acknowledging that at the beginning of the year, knowing that, hey, this is not going to fly, all these old things that we did. We have to reimagine it. And, I think in spring and summer of last year, we would start a sentence and end up kind of being a really long sentence. And when is this ever going to end? It's a paragraph now. And this would be a play. This would be a structure of a play. And so there's a fair amount of that, of trying to kind of get it to where we need it to be. And, I think when it's like that, there's not maybe like a really strong footing of this, I'm here, I'm doing that, I'm communicating this, I'm doing that, And I think it's so much different now that, hey, versus this look, we're playing this, versus FSL, we're playing that, versus empty, these are our checks, and all these other things where they're kind of settled, they're drawn up, we've talked about it, we've repped it. And so I think that's a big help. I thought, it'd be good for coaches to be a help and not a nuisance to your players. And I think we're going to be able to do that this year. And I think we got better players on defense too that can come and contribute and rush the passer and make plays when the ball's in the air. I thought, our guys that are returning from last year have improved greatly. Devin Bobby is here today, and Devin is one of those that had the best spring I've seen him he just had. And so I think he's rising in terms of his playmaking ability. There's a couple others that follow him. So I'm excited about this outcome, but it's been a lot of work because you kind of have to break it all the way down and build it all the way back up.
I talked to Sawyer Robertson earlier, your quarterback. What impressed you the most about, he enters the year as the backup, he takes over and he does so well. Like just behind the scenes, what impresses you as a coach?
He's got a great heart. He really cares. He really listens. It's not just speak for him. He's humble, and so that's a strength. And then I also think, what he's doing now is trying to step out and be out in front a little bit more, which is, I think, a little bit uncomfortable for him. But I think is a needed step for him. And I think that, there's dudes that have come to Baylor to play with him, transfer portal wise. And there's freshmen that are not going to play with him, but have come because of him. And so I think it's a testament to like what a humble heart can do. And so Sawyer's a guy that is somebody that you root for because he's what you'd want your boy to be.
Now, you've had some big seasons. You've had some disappointing seasons. What are the differences between a team that achieves their ceiling and one that maybe doesn't?
Well, yeah, you gotta have talent first, and so I think you gotta have talent. You gotta have depth. So I think those things kind of set it up, and then I think from there, if you have that, then you can be in games and lose games. But there's a belief that the team knows it's a good team and will continue to fight. I think if you don't have those things, and it gets to be stormy or it gets to be kind of a hard stretch, it's harder to keep the faith. And so we've got ourselves a really strong team. It's more depth than I've ever had. And so I feel good about our prospects.
Now, last year, I don't think anybody knew what to expect from Baylor. This year you see the media polls and that kind of stuff. Y'all have some high expectations. How do y'all go about handling those expectations and kind of setting that inside the locker room, or is every year kind of the same inside?
Yeah, it is. We don't really talk about it. I know that they'll hear it for sure, and so anytime I see something like on my phone or I'm scrolling, I'll scroll real fast so I don't see it too long. But I'll know that it was said, and I'll find ways to address it from like, hey, we got to do this better, or this happened yesterday. This is not the standard. We got to do this better. We got to improve this. We got to be better here. So I'm constantly kind of pushing for like the day-to-day stuff to be at a higher level. And we've gotten guys that are now doing that themselves, that are holding the team accountable themselves. A lot of the guys that are here today. And so I feel, when the players can do it, I think it's probably more powerful than when a coach is doing it. So, I think the outside is always going to come and get in on the inside some, but the more you're focused on what you got to get done today and winning today, the more all that will take care of itself.
And then lastly, I love talking to coaches about official visits. What's the weirdest food that you've ever had to eat on an official visit that was made for you?
Let's see. We were recruiting. I was at LSU. And we had a visit in Utah, and I think I had goat. And so I didn't know it was goat prior, and then they told me it was goat, and so I kept at it. I didn't stop. I wanted to stop, but I didn't stop.
Yeah, you can't turn down mom's food on an official visit. All right, Coach, I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.